So you've just got your brand new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. First of all, congratulations. Today I'll be showing you the first 27 things that you need to do to get the most out of your Fold 7. Now these tips and tricks are going to unlock new features, improve performance, save battery life, extend your battery health, and all in all, make your experience using the Fold 7, well, even better. What better place than to start with multitasking, as of course this is one of the areas where the Fold 7 truly shines and outcompetes most traditional phones, and that is by having that super large inner display letting you run multiple apps. You can see here 3, even 4 applications at once. However, did you know that multitasking by default isn't actually enabled for all application? There is a setting that we need to change to allow all apps to run like this. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. What we're going to do is swipe to the home screen here and then go into our settings, and then on the left here we're going to go into advanced features right over here and then go into labs. And here, what you want to do is turn on multi-window for all applications. This will allow you to run all applications in split screen mode or multi-window mode or multitasking, whatever you want to call it, without any limitations. There's certain third-party apps, I noticed particularly games, that won't be able to run like this by default. So turning on that feature, that setting, will enable all applications to support multitasking. On the subject of multitasking, let me show you a couple of tips and tricks to really get the most out of this powerful phone. So let's say here I've got one app running, let's say YouTube, and I want to pull up a second application. What I can do is then do a small gesture swipe up from the bottom of the display. You'll see that kind of pulls up a dock, but we'll cover that more later. But from here, what I can do is simply tap and hold and drag another application either to the left of the current application or below or above. So let's say I drag it to the left here. As you can see, we're now running 2 apps, and then we get this little 3-dot menu in the center. I can tap that, and then using the arrows, I can quickly change the orientation of those apps, as well as rotate them around to go, let's say you have YouTube. I think that makes more sense to have in the top half of your display, and then I've got Chrome here on the lower half. So really, really great to be able to do that. And also, let's say there's an app pair or 2 applications that you will often run at the same time, like for example, YouTube and Chrome, something I do quite often. There's a way to actually save this to the home screen. So what you can do is tap on that 3-dot menu, tap on the little star icon, and then here we can add the app pair to our home screen. So if I go in and tap home screen, you'll see that we now have a new icon right there. See, I already got one here actually because I use this pair very often. And what you can do from here on, simply tap on that icon and it will automatically launch both of those applications in the same position where you left them off. So super useful way to get more out of multitasking on your Galaxy Z Fold 7. And I want to show you a feature to unlock to make this 8-inch internal display feel even bigger. So at the moment, as you can see, I'm running 2 applications here in split view, and they are running full screen. However, you still see the menu bar here up at the top, and there's a little bit of a strange gap here at the bottom. I'm honestly not sure why. So there's a little bit more space that we can fill, and there is a setting to enable that. So over here on the right half of my display, I've got the settings app open, and in here, we're going to scroll back to advanced features where we were earlier. And then in here, we're going to tap onto multi-window, the 3rd option. And here you want to enable full screen in split view. Now check out the difference here. Let me turn this on. And voila, as you can see, those apps are now proper full screen. That weird gap at the bottom disappears, as well as the information, as well, that taskbar up at the top. So let me give you a quick before and after. And as you can see, having more vertical screen space will allow for less scrolling, more information on your screen at a time. And if you're watching in landscape, it will give you a bigger viewer of, say, your YouTube video. So definitely a feature I recommend you turn on. And of course, when you swipe home, you will have these icons reappear. And if you're running just a single application, as you can see, they will still appear. This only counts for when you are running 2 applications at once, which is of course when you need that screen space the most. Now let's talk a little bit about the battery. Of course, one of the most important components of any phone, and you want to make sure that it lasts. But first, it's important to check your battery health. This is very important, even if you buy your phone new, but especially, of course, if you are buying the phone used. You want to know what the condition of your battery is like. So to do this, we are going to pull up the app drawer, and we're going to open up a pre-installed application on your phone that will be called the Samsung Members app. So this is the icon that you want to look for. We'll tap into that. And then from here, we're going to tap onto support, which is the bottom option on the left. And then we have an option here to run a phone diagnostics. And we're going to go ahead and get started here. And as you can see, it's going to go through and check 21 different components of your phone, basically a lot of the physical and digital and software components of your phone one by one to make sure everything is running as it should. Now, what I will do is quickly cancel this test for a sec here, and you can see here individually everything that it's going to check, including the battery. And this is where we can see your battery health and battery status. So you can see the battery life is good. That is going to be your battery health, and we still have full capacity, as you can see as well. And of course, we have the option to run that test again. But this is a really important way to see your battery health and make sure that it is up to par. Again, if your phone is new, you want it to be, otherwise you may want to return it. And if you are buying a phone used and the battery or any of these components for that matter aren't working as they should, you may want to steer away or say negotiate for a heavy discount. So there it is in the Samsung Members app. Great to run every once in a while, even if say your phone is running a bit slow or something doesn't seem right. Run this diagnostics and it'll give you a very good idea if something is off. Right, so now that we know how to check your battery health, let's talk about increasing or in other words, preserving your battery health, helping it last longer, ultimately helping your phone last longer. So there's a really important setting that I highly recommend you turn on, and let's go ahead and jump into the settings app and let me show you where this is. So in the settings app, we're going to scroll down to where we find battery right here, and then we're going to go into battery protection. And first of all, you want to make sure that that is turned on, and then we can actually tap into it to go one layer further, and we have multiple options here to choose from. Let me briefly talk you through what these are. Right, so basic is one that I recommend for literally everyone. What that's going to do is once your phone reaches 100% capacity, once it's fully charged, it's going to stop charging and let the battery gradually deplete to 95%, and then only then charge it back up again to 100%. This way your battery isn't constantly cycling between 99%, 100%, 99%, 100%, as that will produce a lot of wear on the battery, particularly when it's charged up to that maximum capacity, and that will lessen the life of your battery. Now, second to that, we also have the option to turn on adaptive protection. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to keep track of your charging habits. So let's say you plug in your phone at 11 p.m. at night and unplug at 7 a.m. It's first going to charge from 0 to 80% and then wait with the remaining 20% till closer to 7 a.m. or when you typically unplug your phone. And this is going to stagger the charge so your phone won't charge as fast, thus again limiting wear on the battery, because that's going to produce less heat, and heat is probably the #1 killer for your battery health. So I would recommend turning this basic option on and then also adaptive protection. Now, for the true battery protection diehards out there, and this is a very expensive phone, so I wouldn't blame you if you are, you do also have the maximum option, and this will allow you to set a hard cap onto where your battery can charge up to, because the optimum capacity for a battery, a lithium-ion battery, like that is in your Galaxy Fold 7, is going to be about 80% or below. Once you get to that 90 or 100% capacity, it really isn't good for the battery to be at this level for very long. So this gives you an option to set a hard limit to your maximum battery capacity. For example, 80%, you can also set it to 90, but 80, science has shown, is sort of the sweet spot. Now, of course, the negative here is that you do sacrifice 20% of your battery capacity, which some may or may not want to do. For me, I find that to be just too much of a sacrifice, so instead, I go to basic and turn on adaptive protection, and this is what I recommend for most as well. And for this next one, let's jump into the camera, because one of the massive upgrades that we get on the Z Fold 7 is we now get a 200 megapixel main sensor straight from the Galaxy S25 Ultra, but you want to make sure that you have full advantage of that large new megapixel sensor. So first of all, when you open the camera application, you will see up here at the top that 12M. So by default, it will be shooting in 12 megapixels. Now, this is of course a relatively small image size, which is good because the file sizes are small, but the quality just won't be as good as it can be. So what you can do is tap on that 12 megapixel icon here, and we can go up to 50 megapixels or even go all the way up to 200 megapixels to take full advantage of this incredible camera sensor that Samsung have somehow squeezed into the incredibly thin Fold 7. So one thing to bear in mind though is with 200 megapixel photos, they will be larger and thus take up more storage space. But if you're going to a special occasion, a wedding, or graduation, whatever it may be, you want to grab all the detail, definitely be sure to switch it to that 200 megapixel mode. And then for your everyday shots of your cup of coffee or whatever it may be, 12 or 50 megapixel may be fine. Personally, I find myself keeping it at 50 most times. I think that's a good sweet spot, but then when it's needed, I switch to 200. Another cool camera feature that I want to show you is, check this out. You can see by default here, we have a very large viewer of your viewfinder, and this is cool, but it's, I think, a little bit too large. Instead, there's an app or a feature rather altogether that Samsung has included that allows you to take better advantage of this large screen space. If you tap this icon here in the top left, you'll see that it's going to divide the screen into two. And now every time I take a picture, we get a live preview of that picture in the top left corner, in the left side of your display. And this will allow you to preview those pictures, really neatly cycle through them. So if say you're taking pictures of someone, you can quickly see, is it a good shot? Is it a bad shot? Delete it, favorite it right from the go. I think this is super smart and a really efficient use of this incredibly large display. This is really how I like to take pictures on my Fold 7, and I think this will be useful for you as well. And now from photos, let's take a look at videos. I'm going to quickly change the view back here to make it easier for you to see. Let's switch over to video mode, where we can also change the resolution to take even better quality video. Now you can see by default here up at the top, we get that small icon UHD 30. So UHD is going to mean 4K Ultra HD, which is essentially 4K. You also have FHD, which is full HD, just regular HD. And then we have HD, which is HD ready. And then we can even shoot all the way up to 8K. Very impressive that this phone is able to shoot 8K. Again, that's thanks to that 200 megapixel main sensor. We can shoot at 8K at 30 FPS. I think 30 FPS will be fine for most things. However, if you do intend to slow that footage down, I recommend going to UHD and switching to 60 FPS. In fact, 8K, while it is really cool to have this feature on the phone, will eat up a lot of storage, like really a lot of storage. And there aren't many 8K TVs out there either. Not many online platforms support it yet. So I actually recommend sticking to UHD. I think that is going to give you the best of both worlds, where you get a lot of quality because it's 4K, but the storage, it won't eat up as much of your storage. And again, in terms of the FPS, you can either set this to 60 or 30. 30 is enough for every day. 60 only if you intend to slow the footage down. Say you're recording some action, sports, anything like that as well. And now let's talk about some protection. You want to make sure that your Fold 7 is safe from viruses and malware. There's a very key feature that you want to enable in the settings to ensure this. So what we're going to do is go into our settings page here, scroll all the way to the bottom to where we find device care right here. And in here we have app protection, and you want to tap into that. And if that's not on already, you want to tap on that three-dot menu, tap on app protection settings, and you want to make sure that it is turned on. So it might be off by default. Make sure that this is turned on. And what that's going to do is it's going to periodically scan all the applications on your phone in the background, or you can do a manual scan as you see right here. And it's going to check for any signs of malware or viruses. And if it does find anything suspicious, you'll be notified and you can remove it from there. Super useful feature to have on in the background. You hope to never need it, but it is reassuring to know it is there. And for this next one, we're going to take a look at the cover screen, which is of course largely upgraded here on the Fold 7. It is much bigger, much more comfortable to use. But did you know you can actually unlock or enable a setting that will let you have two different home screens, one for the cover screen and then one for your main inner display. Now by default, the two will be mirrored. Check this out. You can see the left half of the main display will exactly mirror the cover screen's view, as you can see. But again, we can change this to have multiple home screens. And I think this is a really smart feature because I use my cover screen very differently from how I use my main screen. So there may be different apps or different widgets that you want on that cover screen, but not necessarily on the main screen, and vice versa. So let me show you how to enable this. So to do this, we are going to jump into settings, and then we're going to scroll down to where we find home screen right here. And then from here, we're going to tap into cover screen mirroring, and then we're going to turn this off, and that's going to enable you to customize both screens separately. So this way, changes that you make to your cover screen won't affect that of your main screen, allowing you to essentially have two home screens at once. Next, I want to show you a useful feature that will allow you to simultaneously continue an app from the main screen over to the cover screen. Let me show you what I mean. So by default, let's say here, I'm looking through my beautiful pictures here, and I close my phone to switch over to the cover screen. You'll see that the gallery has now closed, and I have to manually open it up to continue where I left off. And there is a setting that we can change to enable that app to automatically continue over on the cover screen that is off by default. So let me show you how to turn this on. To do this, we're going to go into settings, and then we scroll down to where we find display. And then inside display, we are going to scroll all the way down to where we find continue apps on cover screen. We'll go and tap onto that, and then we can turn this to always or swipe up to continue. So I like to set this to always. So this way, as you can see, we're currently in settings here. I'm going to close the phone, and voila, we are back in settings. Super great, because this will allow you to instantly switch between the displays and basically carry off right from where you were. Now you also have swipe up to continue. That's kind of a middle ground where, as you can see, if I close it, I have the option to swipe up and bring up that same application. This one's useful too, kind of an in-between option. Personally though, I like to set it to always. And this brings us to the taskbar. Now the taskbar is this little bar that you see here at the bottom of the display, essentially a dock. Now what this is going to do is it's going to mirror the bottom row of icons that you have on your home screen. Plus, it's going to add 3 most recently used or app suggestions. So really, really useful. And the reason I really like to have this is because it is super easy to quickly pull up a second application, simply drag it out. And as you can see, a very quick way to start multitasking in split screen mode. Really useful to have. Of course, this is something though that you do have to activate in settings to enable this taskbar. And to do this, what we're going to do is jump into the settings app and then once again scroll to where we find display. And then in here, we can scroll down to where we find taskbar. And first of all, you want to make sure that that is turned on, and then we can tap into it for a few more key settings. You can basically decide how the taskbar is going to behave. So you can have it permanently on screen like I have here, or you can also have it auto hide when apps are open, which will require a sort of small swipe up from the bottom of the display to pull it up, and that will then allow you to do basically the same thing, pull up more applications like so very easily, which is sort of what I recommend because this way it doesn't take up screen space, but you still have that functionality of the taskbar. Really useful feature. Kind of makes the I think this really solidifies the tablet feeling on the Fold 7, having that dock or that taskbar right on your display. And now I want to talk about the navigation bar. Now, the navigation bar is separate from the taskbar, but equally important. So to set this up, let me show you how to do this. So we're going to go into settings, then tap onto display. And then over on this page here, we're going to scroll down to where we find navigation bar right here. Now you may be used to this layout here, which is going to be that button layout, that 3-button layout that we've seen on Android since day one. Many people are used to this, but I recommend on this phone especially to switch it over to swipe gestures. As you can see, for multiple reasons. First of all, it gives you more screen space, right? These buttons won't always be on screen. And secondly, it enables really neat functionality like being able to quickly cycle between your open apps by simply swiping along the bottom of the display. Plus accessing things like your app switcher menu, it's all more seamless, all with this very subtle little home bar here at the bottom. And again, you can do that little half swipe up to bring up your taskbar. I think overall, switching your navigation bar to the swipe gestures is absolutely the way to go, especially on the Fold 7. And now I want to show you some cool new features to do with the lock screen, as there are now some new customization functions that I'd love to show you. So over in settings, what we're going to do is scroll to where we find wallpaper and style. And then in here, we can change the lock screen or of course the home screen. In this case, we'll tap on the lock screen. And then in here, first of all, we got a few new clocks to choose from, including some animated clocks. So if we go ahead and swipe all the way to the right under style, you'll see we have a couple new clock faces. And you can see these last 3 are going to be animated. I think they're really clean. I like this modern sort of minimalistic one in particular. I think it's really cool. And what's also neat is that you can of course change the size. And this time you can also completely move the clock around your lock screen. So if say you have a picture of a loved one, you don't want their face to be covered by the time, you can move it to the other side as well. I think this is really useful. And additionally here, what's also neat is we can also change the thickness here of the text depending on the style you choose. Not in the animated ones, but in the non-animated ones you can. And of course, we can change the color as well. Now also, lastly, I do want to show you that you can customize the on-screen controls here as well. So on the bottom left, we can choose this to pretty much anything we like, a certain action or a shortcut to pretty much any application on your phone. You can see I've got the calculator here and the camera app. I keep it quite simple, but definitely recommend customizing this to match your style. And again, you can customize this separately, both for your cover screen as well as for the main display. And going from the lock screen, let's take a look at the home screen, where in One UI 8, we do have some new widget designs and customization options. So as you can see, I've got this widget here, this gallery widget, which looks a little bit different. And what is really neat is now you can actually change the shape of a widget. So for example, what I can do is tap and hold on that, then go into settings. And then here, as you can see, I can actually change the shape of that widget to sort of match the aesthetic that I'm going for. You can see this one here, I think is particularly nice. What's also cool is you can also now much more easily resize widgets. So tapping and holding, you can simply drag along the corner to make a widget smaller or larger without having to first remove the widget and add in a new one. So those are a few things that I think are really useful. Now, a particularly cool widget that I'd like to show you that is new is going to be the calendar countdown widget. So to quickly add this, we're just going to pinch out on the home screen, and then we're going to tap onto widgets, and then let's add a new one. And under calendar, we now, as you can see, have this countdown menu, and we can go ahead and add a countdown widget right here to the home screen. And we can of course customize this to set this to count down to any specific events from your calendar, or say a public known holiday, whether it be birthday, upcoming holiday, anything like that. And we can also change the background to a custom image. So let's say here, the next summer bank holiday, let's say I want to have that on my lock screen, home screen. And as you can see, I now know that there's 31 days left before the next public holiday here in London. And one last thing I want to show you on the home screen is this new folder design, because by default, as you can see, folders on Android or on your Galaxy phone look like this, right? You tap into that folder and then you can open an app within it. However, Samsung has introduced a really cool way to get more out of folders and, in my opinion, make them a lot more enjoyable and user-friendly to use. So what you can do now is take any given folder on your phone, tap and hold, and then we're going to go on to enlarge. And as you can see, that's going to enlarge the icons. The text, the title of the apps will be hidden. It'll just be the icons. And in this way, without having to first open the folder to launch the app, I can just instantly launch the application right from within that folder. And this saves you a bit of time. As you can see, it's also, I think, nicer to see. It gives you a clearer overview of what apps exactly are in that folder rather than having those tiny icons. So this is definitely the way to go. Again, all you want to do is tap and hold on that folder and then tap on enlarge, or of course shrink if you want to bring it back. But this, I think, is the way to go. I want to show you a really great security and privacy setting to enable, and that is the ability to lock an application. So let's say I've got my phone open here, I've got a location pulled up on Maps, and I need to show that to someone, whether it be maybe an Uber driver or someone like that, and I want to hand them my phone, but I don't want them to be able to exit that application and go through other parts of my phone. I want them to stay locked within that app, and there is a setting that we can enable to enable this feature. So to do this, what we're going to do is jump into settings, and then from here we're going to scroll down to where we find security and privacy right over here, and then we're going to scroll to where we find more security settings. And here we're going to turn on allow apps to be pinned, and this is going to allow us to lock an application. So let me show you how to do this. What we're going to do is open an application that we want to lock, and then swipe up till we get to the app switcher, tap onto the app icon here in the top, and then we're going to tap onto pin this app. And as you can see, the application has now been pinned. I cannot swipe home, I cannot see my system toggles, my notifications, I can't do any of that, but I can only interact with this application. So this is really useful, again, for privacy and security, letting you lock your phone to a specific application. Now, to unpin an application or to unlock it, simply want to swipe up from the bottom, hold, and then as you can see, you'll be prompted to enter either your PIN or your fingerprint, where as you can see, the app is now unpinned and we can access the rest of our phone. And I want to show you my favorite and probably the most used AI feature that I use on the Fold 7, and that is called Circle to Search. But before I show you the feature, you want to make sure that this is enabled in settings. So to do this, we're going to jump into settings, and then we're going to scroll down here, or scroll up rather, to where we find display. And then in here, we're going to go over to navigation bar right there. And then in here, you want to make sure that Circle to Search is turned on. Now, let me show you how to activate this. So let's say here, I've pulled up a picture of a product and I want to learn more about that product. Well, what I can do is simply tap and hold on the home bar. As you can see, we get this cool animation on screen, and I can then literally circle this given product, and then it's going to automatically do a Google search of that product and even give me an AI overview to tell me more about a product, an ingredient, a dog, a species of bird, whatever it may be. Basically, anything that you can think of, you can then circle to search. So this isn't just limited to photos. Even here on the lock screen, I can go ahead and circle an application, or home screen. I can even circle an application on my home screen to learn more. This works system-wide, and I can circle absolutely anything. Think of, let's say you're watching a YouTube video and there's a product that you like, or an ingredient, or whatever it may be. You can simply highlight it by circle to searching to instantly get more information about it. So very simple to activate. Just tap and hold on the home bar. And like I said, this is probably my most used AI feature from Samsung on the Fold 7. And now back on the cover screen, since the cover screen is so much larger compared to previous Fold phones, it is of course a lot nicer to use. However, if you're using it with one hand, it can be difficult to reach particularly the upper edges of your screen. And this is where one-handed mode comes in and is a super useful feature for the Galaxy Fold 7 or any Galaxy phone for that matter. So first of all, you do have to enable this in the settings, and let me show you how. So over on the settings page, what we're going to do is scroll down to where we find advanced features right here. And then in here, we have one-handed mode, and you want to make sure that that is turned on. Now, let me show you how to activate it. So to activate one-handed mode, you want to do a simple small swipe gesture down. As you can see, your screen will dramatically shrink, where reaching that top corner of the display suddenly becomes super easy with one-handed mode. Additionally, I also find things like the keyboard are going to be more comfortable because your thumb doesn't have to reach all the way to the end. It only has to reach just about halfway to get to the other side. side, making it much easier to type as well. And of course, I'm left-handed, so I've got my screen here on the left, but if I'm right-handed, I can tap on the arrow to shift it over to the right-hand side. Now, to exit one-handed mode, you want to simply repeat the same gesture, a small swipe down, and voila, as you can see, we're on full screen mode once again. This next feature is truly essential to protect your data if ever your phone is lost or stolen. So first of all, what we're going to do is enable this feature, and let me show you how to do this. We're going to jump into settings, and then in here we are going to go over to lock screen. There it is, lock screen and AOD. And then in here, we're going to go on to secure lock settings. Then we have to enter in our device's PIN. And there we go. And then in here, we have an option to auto factory reset after 20 incorrect password attempts. Now, let's say your device is ever lost or stolen. The first thing that person is probably going to try to do is brute force their way into your phone by guessing your password. This way, if they incorrectly guess it 20 times, your phone will automatically erase itself, meaning that even when your phone is lost and no longer safe, your data at least will be. And ultimately, that is what is most important. Now, I do have one small caveat. This is, of course, something that generally speaking, I recommend you turn on, and I personally use it, and I recommend it to most. However, I do have friends with young kids who may want to play with their parents' phone and try to guess the password, and well, then inadvertently set off this feature. So if you have kids, perhaps, or someone who may want to try, guess your password or whatever it may be, you don't want your data to be removed too often, but in all other cases, I think for most people, this here is a great peace of mind feature that I recommend. Now, kind of on the subject of security and safety, let me show you how to make your passwords more secure, particularly when you are entering them on your phone. So to do this, we're going to go into the settings page. This time, tap onto security and privacy, and then we're going to scroll down to where we find more security settings. And then in here, we have this option for make passwords visible, and you want to make sure that that is turned off. Now, what does this mean? Well, you know how when you're typing in a password on your phone, it will briefly show the character you just typed before then turning into a little black dot? This way, it will never show that character. So it's a much more secure way to type in passwords on your phone. Let's say someone's looking over your shoulder, whatever it may be. This time, it'll be much harder for them to track what it is you're actually typing. And I think on a phone, that is important because you're often using it, right, in public. This here makes your passwords more secure by essentially making them invisible. And then one more really important security feature is called offline finding. And this is something that is off by default. So you want to enable this for your, of course, your security for your phone, making it easier to find, hopefully find it if, say, you ever lose it or it gets stolen. So what you want to do is go into settings, and then we're going to tap onto security and privacy. And then in here, we have lost device protection. And we're going to go ahead and find my mobile and make sure that offline finding is turned on. Now, offline finding, what this is essentially going to do is, it's no guarantee, but what it's going to do is if, say, your phone is lost or stolen and the battery runs out or it's powered off, of course, you're not connected to Wi-Fi, right? So it'll be harder to find. However, what it's going to do, even when it's off, is it's going to try estimate your phone's location by connecting to other Galaxy phones in the area. So if you're in a busy or populated area, this can go a long way to still being able to identify and know where your phone is. So this is something I definitely recommend you turn on. Again, it's no guarantee, but it's a potential, still a step forward, right? You may still be able to track down your phone. So definitely recommend you turn that on. And this next feature is super important. Not many people know this, but it is really important to restart your phone or computer or tablet or really any tech every once in a while, as it's going to clear up your system cache, clear up your memory, and it will help your phone run faster and better. If, say, your phone is ever not acting the way it should or it's running a bit slow, chances are doing a simple restart might fix a lot of those issues. And there is a way or a setting to enable that will actually make your phone or allow your phone to restart every once in a while to make sure it's always performing at its best, ultimately meaning it will run faster. And there's a setting that we can turn on for this. So over on in settings, scroll all the way to the bottom to where we find device care. And then here we are going to scroll to auto optimize. There it is, auto optimization. And in here we have auto restart. And you want to make sure that it will be restarting when it is needed. Now you can also set it to a fixed schedule. I think that's a bit overboard, but instead having it restart automatically when it's needed is super useful. Now I've had this feature on for years on previous Samsung phones. Never has it restarted at a time where it bothered me. It does this only at night, say when your phone is charging, right, or when you're not using it. So I've never actually noticed it doing it, but having this feature on knowing that it is, doing that periodically to make sure, again, that everything is running as it should, is something I definitely recommend that you turn on, that restart when needed. And well, there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Those are the first 27 things that I would do on the brand new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Let me know if you have any questions at all, and if this video was helpful to you, be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.